Hi there, it's Liam here from Racing Races. So we move on to the handicap chase marks and a few that we're going to highlight. So the first one is Penbrook, who went up £5 for winning a race where the others didn't finish. The handicapper's just guessing. I really think he is. I mean, I'd have been gutted if I was the owner of Penbrook to go up £5 for winning a nothing race. The other, two of them had no chance, and one of them clearly ran subpar and hated the ground. I'd be gutted that he's gone up £5 for that. And with that in mind, because he's got up to 140 now, I think they need to go, well, let's try and win as many handicaps as we can now. Not bother, getting him well handicapped. They need to win races now. I think they should be aiming at this race here, this Southern Novices Handicap Steeplechase at Cheltenham on the 27th of January. It's over 2.5 mile, which I really believe Penbrook wants. I don't think that was why he won at the weekend. Nothing to do with that he was running over the right trip. I just think he was the only one able to cope with the ground. But when he does get the slightly better going and he gets a 2.5 mile trip, I think he is nicely handicapped still off 140. And I think that's where they need to be going with Penbrook. The next horse I want to talk about is Bport, who went up £2 to 142 for finishing second in that London National. And for me, the trip has just caught him out, hasn't it? He travelled really well. I'm surprised he only reduced by 77%. I thought he would have gone really, really short in this race, to be honest. I thought he travelled really well. He travelled like if it had been over 3 mile, he would have won it comfortably. He's just been outstayed by Truckers Lodge, who obviously has Welsh national form. But I think a £2 rise isn't unfair on him. And back over 3 mile, I think he'll go really, really close in a big race. Where do I think they should go? The Great Yorkshire Handicap Steeplechase. I think that's normally called the Skybet Handicap Chase. It's a feature race. It's 100 grand prize money, total prize money. And it's worth going for. And I think the drop back in trip will really suit him. And yeah, they clearly don't have a big target in mind. They're not aiming specifically for a race. They're just going to run him in all the big races, I think. And yeah, that's where I'd be going with Bport. I think he would go very, very close in the Great Yorkshire Handicap Steeplechase on the 27th of January. We move on to Golden Sun, who's dropped £1 to 139. And for me, this is just a guess. How can you pull up 4 out, be beaten by nearly, from about 1.5 miles out in a 2.5 mile race, and the handicapper go, yeah, he's ran £1 below his best. What are you going on about? Well, not he's running £1 below his best, but off £1 lower mark, he'd have probably gone closer. What are you going on about? As a handicapper, that is the most ridiculous decision. There was a few. Not so Sleepy going up. Simply the bet's dropping £3 for no reason. And Golden Sun dropping £1. You either drop him £4 or £5 for that run, or you don't drop him at all. Dropping £1 is just a waste of time. Just an arbitrary figure that they just plucked from nowhere. Would that £1 have helped him here? Absolutely not. Would £4 have helped him here? Possibly. Would dropping him nothing and saying that actually conditions have really affected him? Possibly. They're the two options. You don't drop him £1. That's just ridiculous. But with that in mind, he's dropped £1. I think they'll find another beginner's chase for him. He'll probably win a beginner's chase, and they'll go, oh yeah, now he goes up £4. Blech. I don't know. The handicapper doesn't have a clue what they're doing. But I think they'll run him in a novice chase and probably try and take on one of the better 2.5 novices, get a bit more experience into him, and then find a novice event or try and win a feature handicap with him. It might be that they even try and look at the races in October, November, December sort of thing with him. Give him a whole season. He's only 5. Give him this season to get acclimatised to the UK. He's come over from France. Get him some more experience over fences. But just keep an eye out for Golden Sun when he goes over fences in a handicap. He's one I'm interested in. I don't know what I've suggested here. I've got this race open, but I don't think this was for him. The next horse I want to talk about is Ashland Lad, who dropped £2 to 138. He made a few mistakes over those national fences, and he hated the ground. And with that in mind, I think he could be interesting if they don't give up on him over fences. I mean, we've got to always remember, he did finish 5th in a Scottish National. That wasn't a bad effort. And actually, look at the horses in front of him. Win My Wings, who was clearly very well handicapped that day. Kitty's Light, who was clearly very well handicapped that day. Major Dundee, who was clearly very well handicapped that day. And I think that came off a mark of 140. I think it was rated £2 higher that day. Let me just quickly check that. Just going to work my way to him. Let's go via Major Dundee. I'm just using my other screen at the moment. Major Dundee. Win My Wings. Ashland Lad ran off a mark of 140 that day. He's rated 138, so he's £2 lower, as I said. £2 lower than when beaten by 3 horses, very well handicapped. Okay, he was also behind Fidux, and that hasn't worked out as well. I just think Ashland Lad might not have stayed the trip that day. So don't be aiming for the Scottish National again. But that bet 365 at the end of the season over 3.5 would be very, very interesting for me. And those sort of trips, 3 mile 2, 3 mile 3, 3 mile 4, they could be very interesting. I don't think he's in the Welsh National. I'm just going to have a quick double check. Ashtown. He is still in the Welsh National. That would suit. But I just wonder about that ground. It's likely to come up soft heavy, isn't it? And that might not be quite what he wants really to bring out his best. But come April at Sandown, that ground could well be in his favour for that Bet365 Gold Cup. And he's definitely one to keep an eye on when he gets a bit better going. And maybe not the national fences. I know he's won over the national fences, but he clearly made a couple of mistakes there, and that didn't, it didn't stand him in good stead going forward. The next horse I want to talk about is Brave Siaska. Now, Brave Siaska's dropped £3 to 142 and has been disappointing recently. But one thing I would say is he's been quite highly tried. I do think he's now well handicapped. Well, he is well handicapped. When he won at Aintree in this race in December 2022, he was actually rated 146. So he's dropped to a £4 lower mark than when winning. And if we look at his Warwick form, he's won here. He won here, and he was third. Let's just see who he was third to. I think it was a better race than what I'm suggesting he might run in. He was third to Edwardstone and Third Time Lucky in a Grade 2. Oops. Let's go to this handicap. The Virgin Bet Warwick handicap at Warwick. 2.5 mile, 21 grand for winning it. He'd take all the beating, wouldn't he? A 113 at the course. He's lower than when winning. It is a handicap. He has, there's so much in his favour there, and he gets enough time. It's not until the 11th of February. I think it's the 10th of February this year. I mean, that's where they've got to be aiming Brave Siaska for me. I don't think Cheltenham is quite right for him, so there's no point trying to aim him at the 2.5 or even the Grand Annual. But I think trying to aim him at this race at Warwick would definitely be a good idea. 3 more to go, and they're all very interesting ones. Nube Negra dropped £3 to 155. A former rated 168 horse, he's now down to 155. He's a dual grade 2 winner, at Cheltenham in the Schlur Chase, and it was only 4 runs ago that he was winning that Schlur Chase. So it's not like he's completely out of form and lost his way completely. But when they try and aim him at the Grand Annual, he would be, for me, still classy enough to hold his own in the Grand Annual, and I think he would go very, very close if he got a good run, because obviously he's likely to be held up at the back. But he's got so much class about him that I do still think there is some of that in him. He just needs a drop in class now. So yeah, I'm just keeping my eye out for Nube Negra in a handicap. Now, they're actually doing a handicap soon, hopefully, with Protectorat. And those horses at the top of the weights can certainly win these handicaps when they've actually got graded class. They're just finding the top class graded races too difficult. So he's one I'm interested in. Dan's doing it with Protectorat. That could be a marker for what they then do with their other horses right near the top of the handicap. The next horse I want to talk about is the Big Breakaway, who was hampered at the 5th, I think it was. He's dropped £3 to 144. Now, he is actually still in the Welsh National, and he was second in the Welsh National off 147. Sorry, he was second in the Welsh National off 148. He could run off 147. Now, I know he'd be £3 wrong because he's going to drop even further in the handicap. But as a prep run goes, that wasn't the worst effort because they pulled him up quite early. I'm kind of hoping that they go, okay, it didn't work. Let's go to the Welsh National and see if we can win that. I still think he's interesting for the Welsh National. And the final one that I want to talk about is another horse that's pulled up on his last 3 occasions. Handicap. He's dropped £5 to 142. He's been given a real chance by the handicapper now. That is a £6 lower mark than when he was second at Aintree, went off the 5-2 favourite in a handicap. Where do you go with him? You stick to handicaps for sure. Go to this handicap, the Coral Trophy handicap over 3 mile at Kempton. Why? Well, he's actually won at Kempton before. Let's have a look at it. He won the Calto Star, the Grade 1, beating the Big Breakaway if the cap fits, one for the team in Rillo. He beat some decent horses that day. This race is a handicap, and he's so well handicapped that if he's going to bounce back, it could be here. 85 grand for winning this. And then you potentially win this, and then you go for this race that you were second in at Aintree. Not this race, sorry. You go for this race. He was second in it in April. As a 5-2 favourite. Let's just load it up. This race here, when he was second to Sam Brown, it's 56 grand. Imagine winning 130 grand for 2 races, which if he won at Kempton, he could easily follow up. Now that he would have, a bit of form and a bit of, he'd be back into form and a bit of confidence about him. So yeah, that's where I think they might go with a Handicap. It's a big risk if you were to back him because he's shown nothing recently. But if he's going to bounce back, the Coral Trophy and this race at Aintree are surely where they've got to go with Handicap.